Let me ask you something. Have you ever eaten a perfectly normal meal? Nothing too greasy, nothing too spicy, and yet within minutes you felt that tight, bloated feeling in your stomach? Maybe a bit of pressure in your chest? A little burping? You probably chalked it up to age or stress. But what if the real culprit was something that's supposed to help you digest your food? That something is stomach acid, or more specifically, hydrochloric acid, known as HCl. Now, we've been told for years to fear acid reflux, heartburn, GERD. We've been prescribed antacids, acid blockers, and low-acid diets. But here's the twist. Most of the time, the issue isn't too much acid. It's not enough, especially as we age. Stomach acid isn't just there to make you uncomfortable. It's there to unlock the rest of your digestive system. One of its biggest jobs, activating an enzyme called pepsin. Pepsin is your body's protein-splitting powerhouse, but it only works when there's enough acid in your stomach to trigger it. Without that acid, pepsin stays inactive. And the steak you just ate, the chicken, even that protein shake, it lingers in your gut, undigested, fermenting. That's when gas builds up. That's when food sits heavy. That's when digestion slows to a crawl. And here's where the domino effect starts. Because if you don't fully digest protein in the stomach, that undigested food gets dumped into the small intestine. Now the pancreas and other organs have to work overtime to finish the job, often failing and leaving you with more bloating, more fatigue, and more confusion. Instead of fearing stomach acid, what if we understood how critical it really is? What if, instead of dulling our body's first line of digestion, we focused on restoring it, so the rest of the system could do its job the way it was designed to? It all begins with that first spark in your stomach, hydrochloric acid. Without it, everything else struggles. With it, digestion works like nature intended. Now let's talk about what happens when you don't have enough stomach acid, because the signs are there. You just have to know how to read them. First, gas. Not the kind you get from eating beans or broccoli. This is the kind that creeps in after almost every meal. You feel bloated, tight, like your food is just sitting there. Then there's indigestion, that slow, uncomfortable burn that rises up your chest. You might feel like there's a rock in your gut. You may even feel pressure in your throat or that classic acid reflux sensation. It's no wonder so many people reach for the antacids. But here's the twist. When your stomach acid is too weak, the valve between your stomach and esophagus, the lower esophageal sphincter, doesn't close properly. That weak acid isn't enough to digest your food, but it is enough to splash back up. That's the irony. It's not excess acid causing your heartburn. It's insufficient acid that isn't strong enough to trigger proper digestion. Instead of pushing food through efficiently, the stomach stalls, protein ferments, fats sit undigested. That creates pressure and bubbles that push up into the chest. You burp, you bloat, you feel full after a few bites, even when you're still hungry. And here's the more serious consequence. Low stomach acid means low absorption of key nutrients. We're talking about minerals like magnesium, calcium, zinc, and iron. Over time, this leads to fatigue, brittle nails, thinning hair, even a weakened immune system. Think about it. If your stomach can't break down your food, how can the rest of your body use it? You're not just eating for the pleasure of taste. You're eating to nourish every cell in your body. And if the very first step of digestion is weak, everything downstream suffers. So the next time you feel bloated, don't assume you have too much acid. Ask, what if I actually don't have enough? So now you're probably wondering, if low stomach acid is the problem, what can you do about it? That's where betaine hydrochloride, or betaine HCl, comes in. Betaine HCl is a supplemental form of hydrochloric acid. It's not a medication. It's something you can take with meals to support your stomach's natural ability to digest protein properly. Think of it like a spark plug. It jump-starts digestion right where it begins. When taken with food, betaine HCl increases the acidity of the stomach. This stronger acid environment activates pepsin, your primary protein-digesting enzyme. Once pepsin kicks in, protein gets broken down into usable amino acids. These amino acids are the building blocks for muscle, hormones, enzymes, even brain chemicals. Without them, fatigue creeps in, muscle loss begins, and recovery slows. But here's what's really fascinating. A study published in 2020 in the Journal of Integrative Medicine found that supplementing with betaine, HCl, significantly lowered gastric pH in healthy adults, mimicking the natural acid levels seen in optimal digestion. In other words, it worked. PMC 723895. And that's not all. When stomach acid improves, the signal gets sent to the pancreas and the gallbladder to release their own digestive helpers. It's a chain reaction. A stronger stomach leads to better enzyme flow, better bile production, and better nutrient absorption throughout the digestive system. Now, some people might be nervous to try it. You've been told to reduce acid for years. But the key here is this. You don't start high, you start low. One capsule with a protein-heavy meal. See how you feel. No burning? Try 2 next time. Slowly work up until you feel a gentle warmth, then back off. Instead of taking pills to block what your body's supposed to make, you give your stomach the support it needs to do what it was designed to do. Efficiently, naturally, without side effects. So if you're dealing with bloating, gas, or indigestion, and nothing else has worked, betaine HCl might be the missing link your stomach's been waiting for. Now that we've tackled the stomach, let's move to the next major player in digestion, your pancreas. Most people think of the pancreas only in terms of blood sugar, insulin, diabetes, that sort of thing. But half of your pancreas has nothing to do with hormones. It's dedicated to digestion. This part of the pancreas, called the exocrine pancreas, produces the lion's share of your digestive enzymes. These enzymes break down the food that leaves your stomach. They include lipase, which digests fat, amylase, which breaks down starch and carbohydrates, protease, which handles leftover protein that pepsin didn't finish. When your pancreas is working well, these enzymes flood into the small intestine at just the right time, turning food into absorbable nutrients. But what if they don't show up? That's called Pancreatic Enzyme Insufficiency, or EPI. And it's more common than most people think, especially if you've had gallbladder issues, chronic inflammation, high stress, or blood sugar problems. You see, the pancreas is triggered by signals from your stomach. When there's enough acid in the food leaving your stomach, the pancreas gets the green light to release its enzymes. But when that acid is weak, like we talked about earlier, those signals are faint or never come at all. The pancreas stays silent, and that silence has consequences. Undigested fat starts to pass through your intestines. Protein lingers too long. Carbs ferment. That leads to symptoms like abdominal pain, bloating, and fatty, smelly stools that float and leave oily residue. Something called steatorrhea. Worse yet, when you're not breaking down fat, you're not absorbing fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. And those nutrients are crucial for your vision, bone health, immune function, and blood clotting. Think about that. You could be eating healthy, salmon, leafy greens, avocado, but without pancreatic enzymes, most of those nutrients pass right through you. So yes, your pancreas matters a lot, and not just for blood sugar. Without its enzymes, even the best diet in the world won't give your body what it needs. Imagine this. You're eating full meals. You're trying to eat clean. Maybe you've even started a low-carb or high-protein plan. But instead of feeling energized, you feel tired. Your stomach feels heavy. You notice your clothes getting looser, even though you haven't changed how much you're eating. This might not be a diet issue. It might be a digestion issue. Specifically, it could be pancreatic enzyme insufficiency, EPI. EPI happens when your pancreas can't produce enough enzymes to digest your food properly. The food gets into your gut, but it doesn't break down. And when that happens, several things start to go wrong. Let's start with the most visible symptom, your stool. People with EPI often notice large, greasy, foul-smelling stools that float in the toilet. That's called steatorrhea, a fancy term for undigested fat leaving the body. You might even see an oily film or skid marks that are hard to flush. Now think about what that means. If fat is leaving your body undigested, you're losing more than just calories. You're losing essential fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. These are the nutrients that support everything from your vision and skin to your immune system and bones. Over time, this malabsorption adds up. People with EPI often report unintentional weight loss, even when eating full meals. They experience fatigue, muscle wasting, and brain fog. Some even develop dry eyes, brittle nails, or bleeding gums. All signs that critical vitamins aren't making it into the bloodstream. But here's the frustrating part. These symptoms often get misdiagnosed. People get told they're eating too much fiber, or too much fat, or that they need antidepressants for fatigue. The deeper root, enzyme insufficiency, isn't even checked. And for those without a gallbladder, the risk is even higher. Without bile flowing properly, your pancreas can get backed up. The digestive process stalls. Inflammation rises, and enzymes don't reach where they need to go. This isn't rare. It's not obscure. And it's not just aging. It's a breakdown in the digestive chain. And it often starts with the pancreas being too tired, too clogged, or too unsupported to do its job. The good news? Once you know the signs, you can do something about it. So what do you do if your pancreas isn't pulling its weight? Well, you don't have to wait for your body to figure it out on its own. You can give it a helping hand with something called pancreatin. Pancreatin is a blend of digestive enzymes, lipase, protease, and amylase, usually derived from porcine pancreas. When taken as a supplement, right with meals, it steps in to do the job your pancreas might be struggling with. It breaks down fats, proteins, and carbohydrates so your small intestine can actually absorb the nutrients. It's been used for decades in mainstream medicine, especially for people with chronic pancreatitis or who've had part of their pancreas removed. One of the most common prescription forms is Creon, but there are over-the-counter versions that offer similar support. Now here's where it gets interesting. Remember earlier when we talked about stomach acid? Well, that acid doesn't just activate pepsin. It also signals the pancreas to release its own enzymes. So if your acid is low, the pancreas might not even get the message to do its job. That's why taking pancreatin with betaine, HCl, often works better than using either one alone. And if you've had your gallbladder removed, or you know you're low on bile, there's a third piece of the puzzle, ox bile. Bile is the detergent that breaks fat into tiny droplets. Without it, even lipase, the fat enzyme, struggles to work. It's like trying to wash a greasy dish with no soap. So supplementing with ox bile can make sure your system has the tools it needs to handle fats properly, especially fat-soluble vitamins. Think of these three as your digestion trio. Betaine HCl sparks the process pancreatin, breaks down the food ox bile, emulsifies fat so enzymes can work. Together, they don't override your system, they support it. They take the pressure off an overworked pancreas, and in many cases, they restore proper digestion, energy, and nutrient absorption without the side effects of medications. So if you've been dealing with lingering digestive issues, even after changing your diet, this trio could be your turning point. Let's turn our attention now to a small but mighty organ that often gets overlooked, your gallbladder. Most people don't give it much thought until it's gone. In fact, gallbladder removal is one of the most common surgeries in the US. But whether you still have yours or not, understanding what the gallbladder does and how it affects digestion is absolutely critical, especially as we age. So what exactly does the gallbladder do? Technically, it doesn't produce anything. Instead, it stores and concentrates bile, which is made by the liver. Think of bile as your body's natural dish soap. Its job is to emulsify fats, breaking them down into tiny droplets so digestive enzymes, especially lipase, can do their work. Here's where it gets interesting. When you eat a meal, especially one containing fat, your stomach's acidity triggers a hormone that tells the gallbladder to contract. It squirts bile into your small intestine, right where that fat is arriving. It's a beautifully timed system. But if you don't have enough stomach acid, that signal gets weak. The gallbladder doesn't contract properly, bile doesn't flow, and fats go undigested. Now, if you've had your gallbladder removed, the body still makes bile, but it drips out slowly from the liver, not in response to meals. That means it often arrives too early or too late, never quite syncing up with your food. The result? Poor fat digestion, bloating, greasy stools, and nutrient deficiencies, especially in vitamins A, D, E, and K. Many people don't realize that those fat-soluble vitamins are critical for immune function, eyesight, skin, bones, even blood clotting. Without bile to extract them from your food, your body can't use them, no matter how clean your diet is. And here's another symptom to watch for: referred pain. Ever had a dull ache under your right rib cage? Or pain in your right shoulder that seems to come out of nowhere? That can actually be gallbladder related. The nerves from your digestive organs travel upward, and sometimes the gallbladder sends distress signals that show up in your neck or back. Now let's talk solutions. For those with sluggish bile flow, or no gallbladder at all, one of the best supports is ox bile. It mimics the bile your body would naturally produce, helping you break down fats efficiently. Another powerful tool is TUDCA, a bile acid that helps thin out thick, sludgy bile and improve flow through the bile ducts. It's especially helpful if you've had gallstones, sludge, or inflammation in the biliary system. Just like with enzymes, the goal isn't to replace your body's function forever, it's to support it when it's under strain. Because digestion isn't about one organ. It's a coordinated dance between the stomach, the pancreas, and the gallbladder. If even one partner is offbeat, the whole performance suffers. But with the right support, targeted, gentle, and science-backed, you can restore that rhythm and start absorbing what your body truly needs. By now, you've probably noticed a pattern. This isn't just about the stomach, or the pancreas, or the gallbladder. It's about how they all work together. Digestion is a domino system. One step triggers the next. When that first domino, your stomach acid, falls properly, it sets everything else into motion. Pepsin gets activated. The pancreas gets a signal to release enzymes. The gallbladder contracts, sending bile to where it's needed. Your food breaks down. Nutrients get absorbed. Energy flows. But what happens if that first step is weak? The whole system wobbles. Enzymes don't show up on time. Bile doesn't flow properly. Protein sits undigested. Fat passes through untouched. And you end up with symptoms that seem disconnected. Bloating, fatigue, joint pain, brain fog. But they all trace back to one thing: poor digestion. And here's something important to remember. You don't have to fix everything at once. Sometimes improving just one step, like restoring stomach acid, can set the rest of the system back in sync. That's the power of treating digestion as a system, not a symptom. Too often, people are told their problems are just part of getting older, that it's normal to feel heavy after meals. That reflux is just a sign of aging. That fatigue is to be expected in your 60s or 70s. But the truth is, your body still wants to work the way it was designed. It just needs a little support. And once you understand the chain reaction, you can break the cycle. So now you know. It's not just about one pill or one organ. It's about the sequence. And when that sequence is off, even just slightly, your entire digestive experience changes. You can support it with betaine HCl. You can supplement enzymes. You can add ox bile or TUDCA to help with fat digestion. And for many people, those steps bring real, lasting relief. But here's the truth. None of it works if you're putting the wrong fuel into the system. Even the best digestion can't compensate for poor food choices. And even the best supplements won't undo the damage of chronic inflammation, processed sugar, seed oils, and stress eating. That's why the next step matters more than any enzyme. Because the most powerful change you can make isn't just what you take, it's what you choose to eat. So in the next video, we're going to talk about food, but not in the usual way. No guilt, no rules, no complicated macros. We're going to talk about how to build a meal plan that supports your body's natural digestion, foods that work with your stomach, pancreas, and liver, not against them. Foods that give you energy without making you feel heavy, and choices that actually taste good without leaving you with regrets an hour later. If you've ever wondered, what should I actually be eating at this age to feel good? This next one is for you, because once your digestion is back on track, the right foods won't just nourish you, they'll keep you thriving. I'll see you there.